All right, welcome back to the show. We are talking about the challenge of leadership, and my guest Peter here is shared with us some very, very interesting insights. His journey of leadership in the corporate, in the public sector, internationally and locally has taught him a lot of lessons. And before we went on to a break, Peter was talking about the way things have shifted and changed. The environment has been so dynamic. So you say that unlike in the past where you could plan, predict, put structures, system models, and things tended to be to play out reasonably well. But now you argue that things have become so, the changes are so rapid. Change is like the very thing that we're struggling with now. I mean, we talk about the pandemic, for example.
Right.
It completely disorganized everyone and they shifted things so dramatically. So how does leadership then shift to adapt to that?
I think the word you've used there is adapt.
Yes.
Adaptability.
Yes.
Can I tell you a small story?
Okay.
This is a story I shared in one of my videos.
Yes.
Fascinating to me. It's about this little town in Honduras.
Okay.
Called Choluteca.
Okay.
Choluteca is a small little town, and Honduras is a really poor country one of the poorest in the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
So this little town called Choluteca has a river called the Choluteca River.
Yes.
And back in 1998,
yes,
they built a bridge with the help of funding from the government of Japan and engineers and so on.
Yes.
A beautiful bridge.
Yes.
That was crossing the Choluteca River.
Okay.
And this was part of a whole bypass system that they were beginning to build.
Yes.
Roads and things like that.
Yeah.
In 1998,
yes,
Honduras was hit by one of the most deadliest hurricanes on record.
Okay.
This hurricane devastated the town, the country actually. About 11,000 people died.
Wow.
So by the time the dust settled, or the water settled, the
floods
settled.
Abated.
Yes, so much damage had been done.
Yeah.
And so many lives had been lost.
Yes.
And there was an amazing outcome of this.
Yes.
This bridge was still there.
Yes.
But they discovered that the river that this bridge was crossing had changed its course.
Oh.
So here you have this beautiful bridge you've invested so much time and effort and energy and money in.
Yes.
But the river is now going this way.
Left the bridge behind.
It left the bridge behind.
Yes.
And so many people sitting there saying, but we've put so much money in this thing.
Yes.
And the answer is, excuse me, it doesn't matter how much you invested in that.
Yes.
The river has changed its course. You need to let go.
All right.
So there are some things that are very difficult to let go of.
Yes.
Simply because it is what we have experienced.
Yes.
It is what we have been taught.
Yes.
It's what we have valued in the past.
Yes.
And when the river changes its course,
yes,
it's a painful process, but we must begin to reinvent how we think.
Yes.
Reinvent who we are, reinvent our strategies, and adapt to the new times.
All right.
Instead of holding on to something just because this is what I studied in school, this is what they taught us.
Yes.
And leadership is no different.
Yes.
And what I was saying before we went to the break was that in the past, you go to business schools or you look at leadership books, and the emphasis was on stability.
Yes.
It was on predictability.
Yes.
Structure.
Yeah.
It was on certainty.
Yes.
And these things would somehow help an organization to be able to achieve stated objectives and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So what happens when you are walking into a forest that you haven't been in before?
All right.
Or like you talked about the pandemic.
Yes.
It has changed the course of life.
Right.
And it must also then change how we lead.
Absolutely.
And the leadership of the future, at least the foreseeable future,
yes,
are leaders who are going to be able to generate trust.
Yes.
Trust to me is such a big word here.
All right.
Because it is trust in someone to lead me through uncertainty.
Yes.
But also I need trust in my fellow people I'm journeying with.
Exactly.
Whether it's in my organization or in my country.
Okay.
We need to develop trust.
Right.
We need leaders who will give us a sense of hope.
Right. A sense of hope.
Hope in there is something good at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Because without hope, there's actually no movement.
Yes.
So a leader, and there is no playbook for this, a leader must somehow inspire hope in people.
Okay.
And then a leader must somehow give people a sense of purpose.
Right.
Purpose is that you belong here.
Yes.
And not just that, we have a structure or we have certain goals and, things that we want to.
Yeah, and we're focused on the goal, and if you don't play ball, the goals are not going to shift.
Right.
And they are dictated. It's a top-down kind of scenario. This is where we are going, and you just better cooperate.
This uncertainty has affected organizations, but we must remember that it has affected people individually.
Okay.
Everybody on your team, everybody who's working with you,
yes,
is facing this question mark.
Yes,
is facing the uncertainty of the hurricane that has changed the course of the river.
Okay.
So people need to wake up with a sense of purpose,
right?
A sense of belonging, and I believe this is really the emerging demand on leaders going forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, summarize is a sense of adaptability.
Yeah, right.
Adaptability, and then the sense of hope. Inspire, people around you, give them hope, direction for the future,
right.
And then a sense of purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing?
And trust.
And then the trust, of
yes.
course. I think you started with trust, and then purpose.
Yes.
And trust, hope, and purpose.
Right.
Those three ingredients. So I believe you're following this conversation, and so feel free to send us a text or call or just comment if you're watching through the social media platforms or even on YouTube. If you're watching on television, Elevate TV, you can send us a text and tell us what you think. If you need some help, you find this inspiring, please tell us, give us feedback. So Peter, let's go back to your story, your experiences, because I find it's very fascinating. I began by saying how in 2017, you offered yourself, your candidacy, for the position of no less than the President of the Republic of Kenya. So you went for that position. That's a very, very interesting thing. Tell us what inspired you.
That is a loaded question, because there was no one moment where I just sort of decided I'm going to stand and be a candidate for presidency.
Yes.
It was a process.
Okay.
And a process which took time.
Yes.
A process of a discontent that was in me.
Okay.
A discontent with what I was seeing in the environment.
Yes.
And knowing that there are people out there who have offered themselves.
Yes.
There are people like me.
Yes.
People who have somehow found a way to say, I am on the menu. I'm one of those that are going to be chosen. And I'm saying, I'm sitting here with everybody else.
Yes.
Thinking, well, that's like you walk in a restaurant and say, this is what we're offering, you know? So that's the one, that's the other one, that's the other one. If you don't like it, leave, you know?
Yes.
So I said, we were heading towards a dangerous moment. I mean, we had in Kenya, as we have had for the last number of elections, like two trains coming at each other.
Yes.
You had this NASA coalition.
Yes.
Yeah, this Jubilee coalition.
Yes.
And the dust in the air was looking like this could be worse than the 207, 208.
Yes.
The kind of intensity that was building up.
Yes.
And with a group of other people, we were discussing, really? We sit here like ducks and just duck and wait for the crash to happen? So we said, no. There must be alternatives. Yes. So we began to look for alternatives.
Yes.
In fact, we talked to all the candidates.
Okay.
And one by one, we wrote them off. And we said, let's look for somebody to step here, even if it's just to change the conversation.
Yes.
Even if it's just to bring a new narrative that people can rally around.
Yeah.
Not necessarily even to win this presidency.
Yes.
And so we searched and we began to look and we talked to some people, and of course, one by one, they give you the same story.
Yes.
One is there's no point, where am I going to get the money? Yes. Another one is, it's too late, And there were so many valid reasons why nobody could step out there.
Yes.
And then somebody asked me, Pete, how about you?
You're involved in this conversation. We are describing. We have analyzed the whole thing.
Yes.
And we can see that really somebody has got to step in. We've looked at all the possible people who could step in.
Yes.
And we don't know what to do. How about you?
He says, how about you? And so I told him, and I couldn't believe that I just said exactly the same things that all these other people were saying.
Yes.
Don't have the money, don't have the time. He called me out on it. And he said, that's exactly why we cannot change leadership in this country.
Wow.
Because nobody believes that change can happen.
Yes.
It was like,
wow.
And so I went away from that. And I was praying about it.
Yes.
And I'm saying, Lord, raise somebody.
Yes.
It's like God is saying, raise who? and so through a process which was a bit painful because it was very difficult to find people to buy into what I was saying.
Yes.
I began to explore, what if I stepped forward?
Yes.
And one by one, it was like, are you mad?
Uh-huh.
Are you out of your mind?
Right.
And the more they said to me, are you out of your mind? The more I realized that actually, you need to be out of your mind almost to step into this thing.
Yeah.
So to cut the story short, I consulted certain leaders. I talked to my bishop. I talked to my parents and my family. And there was such mixed reaction. Some people prayed for me, and the prayer was not so much, Lord, help him in the campaign. It was like, Lord, sort out whatever's going on in this whatever's going on in this guy's head.
Yes.
And so I put together a team.
Okay.
I began to hobble together a team of people who I felt were believing.
Yes.
Not so much that I would win this presidency, but believing that we must do something.
We must be seen to act on our conversation. We've had this conversation.
Yes.
So how can we back out? How can we just walk away?
It was crazy. We started having meetings, and there was some calculated risks. I mean, I didn't have the money.
Yes.
And I did talk to a number of people, and there were some people, some Asian friends, and some people who are well resourced.
Yes.
And all of them would tell you, Pete, you need to step out there and prove yourself.
Yes.
Then we'll back you.
Yes.
And I knew it was a chicken and egg. You need resources to step out there. But you also understand that people to believe that you're serious, they need to see you.
Yes.
Know?
Yes.
So I took the chicken or the egg. I don't know which one it was. I decided, let me just step out there.
Okay.
We launched the campaign.
Yes.
We began down the runway.
Yes.
And after 3 months, it became clear that this is not going to work.
Yes.
Calling on those who had said they would support.
Yeah.
It was very difficult.
Okay.
It taught me a number of lessons.
Right.
And some of those lessons are that, yes, you need to be prepared, but it also opened my eyes to just the fact that this game here, if it's going to change,
yes,
we do need a new cast of people.
Yes.
A new set of people who would go out there. And maybe my role was not so much that I be a president.
Yeah.
Maybe in the process, I've inspired somebody.
Absolutely.
Somebody who is in a better position than I was in.
Yes.
To say, if Pete could step out there, I'm going to go out there.
Yeah.
You know? And over time, maybe we will see some change.
Actually, I think I like that. I know I have I've avoided talking about the American politics. For various reasons, because they are very controversial, and if you make the wrong comment, somebody can think that they can group you somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say something that might get me grouped into some, dumped into some bin.
Right.
You know, when President Trump in 2016 or 2015 began to offer himself as a candidate for presidency, it was the same thing. This guy is a clown, you know.
Yeah.
What is he up to?
Yeah, nobody took him seriously.
Nobody took him seriously.
Yeah.
But I remember somebody I respect so much, an analyst, actually he's a professor in risk engineering, very brilliant guy. He made an observation. He said that during the nomination process for the GOP, guys lined up, the various candidates. There was a long list, including, you remember this guy of the gifted hands, what do you call it? Carson.
Yeah, but Johnny.
Ben
Carson.
Ben Carson and others.
Yeah.
I think even Mitt Romney or something like that. Those GOP guys.
Yeah.
So these guys observed that of all those people that were standing there to win the nomination, Trump was the odd guy out. He was like an outsider. What is this guy doing here?
Yeah.
But then there was also the other counter kind of feel. Maybe this is the guy we need. You see that?
Right.
So it's like he came in as an interruption.
Yes.
He wasn't steeped in the norm, in the campaign process and all of that.
Yeah.
He didn't have that kind of history. He was never a senator or anything like that. He just kind of pushed himself into the scene.
Right.
So you say, perhaps that's the kind of a person we're looking for. Leaders that see this space and they have kind of like to pull from very deep within.
Yes.
Step forward to the plate and say, I'm going to play this game.
Right.
Not for me, but because I think that somebody needs to do it.
Right. I think that is correct. And I believe there are people in our society here.
Yes.
Who are gifted.
Yes.
Who are blessed.
Yes.
And who are positioned.
Yes.
To be able to step forward and offer themselves as leaders.
Yes.
Because of the nature of the swamp, if you will.
Yes, yes.
The swamp that is out there.
We're borrowing that from the Americans.
From the Americans. Because of the nature of that game.
Yes.
You cannot walk into it timidly.
Yes.
You have to walk in with purpose and actually a desire to win.
Yes.
And to be a disruptive force in this thing.
Okay.
Now, it is something that is not easy because even those who want you to go forward and do something,
yes,
will be skeptics.
Yes.
It's very hard to convince people that you are going to be able to match up with the big names and those who have been there before.
Yes.
But I believe bit by bit, as people begin to own this enterprise called Kenya,
yes,
and become discontented with what's being offered on the menu,
yes,
I think you'll see more and more people saying, no, if you won't go, I'm going to go.
Yes.
I'm going to offer myself as an MP, as a governor, and or as a presidential candidate,
Yes.
And just step out there and begin to change the mindset of people that, yes, I don't want to say like I'm borrowing somebody's phrase here, but yes, we can.
Yes, we can idea.
And
that really is a very powerful lesson.
Yeah.
And so leadership, ladies and gentlemen, is it's about courage. And I would like you to, what's the role of that courage? I think we can, and if you go back to the book of Joshua, for example, the story of Joshua, the man who led Israel into the promised land, finally, the leader, warrior, king, and, a courageous man. It seems like at the very call of Joshua was a very strong charge. Only be thou courageous. What's the role of courage in leadership?
Courage is not an end in itself.
Yes.
It's not something to pursue.
Yes.
Courage comes from a conviction.
All right.
When you really believe in something,
yes,
then you say, I'm going to step forward courageously for this thing.
Yes.
Because otherwise, courage of I'm courageous without purpose. Yes. The first thing that hits you, you'll fall down and
yes,
you run away.
Yes.
But I think what I encourage aspiring leaders to do,
yes,
when you're introspecting and searching yourself,
yes,
what is that thing that you're willing to believe in enough,
yes,
that if you were assassinated,
yes,
you'd be willing to take that bullet?
All right.
Because it could happen.
Yes.
But I believe enough that I am willing to be hit and to be called names and to be, be rumors to be started about me and for the media to, mess up I'm willing to step forward into this murky area.
Yes.
Because I believe in this thing.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have that, you're asking for trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, there needs to be some conviction around which courage then can build.
Absolutely. So yeah, conviction
Yeah.
hooked up on courage.
Yes.
I mean, courage. It's not just empty courage.
No.
You don't want to.
Yes.
I mean, the guys who are just merely courageous, the soldiers that are merely courageous get killed.
They get killed for
never
running
get
around,
home.
with
They never get home. But it's the guys who are both courageous and calculating that get back home.
Yeah.
So you don't want to die in battle. Absolutely. So I believe you have learned very profound lessons, and I think you've alluded to some of those. I would like you to speak to people that are looking at our political scenarios, our leadership. We're talking about leadership in Africa, and I think you've alluded to some of the challenges. I want you to talk to young people and people who are looking up to leadership in Africa, and just tell them what needs to change. What needs to change if our future is going to be different.
Yeah. You know, there is sometimes misguided focus on somebody else out there.
Yes.
Who is going to solve our problems.
Okay.
There is, when we talk about leadership,
yeah,
in a way it tends to make us sit back and point to the leaders.
Okay.
And we forget that actually I am as legitimate as that person.
Okay.
And that I have a responsibility in this enterprise, in this ship, in this train that we're in.
Yes.
That must play its part.
Yes.
In influencing for good.
Right.
So that I can be qualified for that position of leadership.
Okay.
And I think if I can use this little poem that I heard once.
Yes.
Which speaks to this thing of self-leadership.
Okay.
That's where you have to start.
Yes.
It says, God said, go and build a better world.
All
and
right.
I said, how? The world is such a big place and so complicated now.
Yes.
And I'm so young and helpless. There's so little I can do.
Right.
And God, in all his wisdom, said, just build a better you. If you start with self-leadership,
yes,
decide that what I want to project, what I want to bring to my society, I must embody.
Right.
I must start with a commitment to certain ideals.
Yes.
I will not, for example, take anything that is not mine.
All right.
I cannot talk about corruption, and we're going to have an if I'm willing to even bend the rules for my own benefit.
Right.
I disqualify myself.
Okay.
There's so many temptations and so many things that lead us to want to bend rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because society tells you this is the way it's done.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
And yet, what we need so badly in our society are role models who can one day stand and say, I didn't steal to get here.
Right.
I worked hard.
Yes.
I stumbled and I stood up and I made mistakes and I did this and that.
Yeah.
I believe that is what God blesses.
That's true.
People who are on a course and willing to lose if that's what it takes.
Okay.
Instead of cutting corners and doing things that are wrong.
Right.
In order to get up the ladder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like what you're talking about. And so I think the story of leadership in our nation and for us as African, in this part of the world, it has to start with us.
Absolutely.
It has to start with us. And we have to determine from the very depth of our heart that leadership starts with me. And it is you having to very introspect, look at yourself very, very boldly and determine that you're going to rise up. You're not going to make a demand on people, on leaders, that you don't make on yourself.
Absolutely.
So I think, because I see a lot of pointing of fingers. Our leaders are corrupt.
Yes.
Our leaders are misleading us. And we all are pointing at the failures of those leaders. While we don't look at our own failures and shortcomings and our stumbling, and how even in our own way, unknowingly, we have sidestepped. We have, corrupted justice, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So we cannot make a demand on others that we're not willing to make on ourselves.
Well put, exactly.
Right.
I believe that really is the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. And so we need to raise a new generation of leaders that they are willing to make a demand on themselves. The demand they are making on the leaders is the demand they are making on themselves.
Precisely.
And that's how leadership in Africa will change.
Yes.
So you wrote a book called African Moment.
The book is almost 20 years old.
Yes, and that's very, very interesting. I didn't want us to end this show without mentioning that. We're coming to the close. So when that book is available, I think it will be very nice if we can have it, spread out. We would like to make it available. So if you're watching and you like to get in touch with Peter, you can write text in on the numbers on the screen, or you get in touch with me, or you can use those numbers on the screen, and you can also use our social media platforms, and we can link you up with Peter. Peter, your story is amazing, and I really thank God that you have been tested. You have made very, very bold, courageous moves, and you're here. You're still standing, and there is still a future, awaiting you. So I really wish you all the best. And my prayer for you is that the Lord will, continue to open doors for you, and that you continue to be a leader of influence. And so thank you so very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
You can just wish one statement, one final, closing remark.
Well, let me say this to you.
Yes.
Actually, I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Right.
Because this is a conversation we need to be having in our churches, in our mosques, in our schools. We need to be talking about ourselves.
Yes.
And holding a mirror to ourselves.
Yes.
And asking ourselves in our families, in our private moments, is what I'm seeing out there in society a reflection of who I am?
Thank you.
And I think that's a big question that we need to be grappling with.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. That's all the time we had for this on this show. Thank you for staying tuned on the Gigi Report. We look forward to more of these kind of programs. And thank you for watching. And keep it Relevant TV. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in today. God bless you, and have a very good time. Bye for now. Thank you.